the Festina affair was a series of doping scandals, doping investigations and confessions by riders to doping that occurred during and after the 1998 Tour de France. The affair began when a large haul of doping products was found in a car of the Festina cycling team just before the start of the race. An investigation was followed by the opening of a separate case into the Tvm team and the subsequent searching of many teams during the race. The investigation revealed systematic doping, and suspicion was raised that there may have been a widespread network of doping involving many teams of the Tour de France. Hotels were searched by police, and a spate of confessions were made by retired and current riders. Many team personnel were arrested or detained, and protests were made by riders in the race. Several teams withdrew from the race. By December 2000, all 9 Festina riders had confessed to using erythropoietin and other doping substances during the 1998 Tour de France, and suspended sentences ranging from 5 to 12 months were handed out in the criminal court case to Willy Voet, Bruno Roussel, Jeff Domt, Jean Dalabot and Joel Chabayan. The 2 accused pharmacists are Permilric Perania and Christine Perania along with Nicolas Estrados were only given fines, while the case against Eric Rijkaard was dropped because of his deteriorating health. Timeline 1998 Tour de France July 8, 1998, Willy Voet, Belgian soigneur of the Festina team and personal carer of Richard Virenque was stopped by customs officers at the Belgian-French border close to Nouvelle-en-Foraine near Lille in northern France. Officers discovered several hundred grams and capsules of anabolic steroids, erythropoietin, syringes and other doping products. Voet was taken into police custody. Festina offices were searched in the evening in Lyon and other suspect products were seized. One of the substances that was found that would later be discussed was perfluorocarbon, which was said to be an artificial carrier of oxygen. The substance was very dangerous to take and is suspected to have caused the near-fatal collapse of Swiss rider Mauro Gianetti during the 1997 Tour de Romandie. July 10, 1998, Bruno Roussel, director sportif of Festina, declared a day before the start of the tour in Dublin that he had nothing to do with the drugs find. He claimed that Voet was not supposed to be with the team for the tour. Meanwhile, a judicial inquiry into the importation and illegal circulation of contraband items began in France. It was announced that Voet would be imprisoned in Luce for 2 weeks. July 11, 1998, French police state that the car contained 250 bottles of EPO, plus 400 bottles and ampoules of various products. Voet is alleged to have driven from Lyon, France via Switzerland to Germany and from there to Belgium. In the Festina headquarters, the police alleged that they found a document with systematic drug programs for the riders of Festina. As the race began in Dublin, it was announced that the Festina riders Richard Virenque, Alex Sarr and Laurent Dufaux would face questioning when they returned to France. July 14, 1998, Gare copyright Rad Greman, a doctor from Switzerland, said in the French newspaper, France Soy, that 99% of the peloton used doping. Roussel and Festina team Dr. Eric Rijkaard continued to deny doping on the team. July 15, 1998, Roussel and Rijkaard are taken into custody in Colette. The Festina hotel was searched by 8 gendarmes. July 16, 1998, Roussel lost his license as a manager of a cycling team from the UCI, but the Festina team appeared to be able to continue in the race due to Miguel Marino together with Michael Gross taking it over. Virenque, Dufaux and Brochard called a press conference before the stage and assured that the team would not withdraw from the race. July 17, 1998, Roussel admitted to systematic doping on the team. In the late evening, Tour de France race director Jean-Marie Leblanc expelled the Festina team from the tour. They did not start the 7th stage the following day. July 18, 1998, Virenque left the tour in tears. July 19, 1998, French Daily Aujourd'hui unregistered trademark Hui reported that on March 4, 1998 police found 104 ampoules of EPO in a vehicle of the TVM team. This occurred following a race during a routine customs check close to Reims in northeast France. Team mechanics were driving the vehicle at the time. the judicial authorities did not make the case a priority. Meanwhile, the new Festina assistant manager Michael Gross alleged that Festina did what every team was doing. July 21, 1998, the lawyer of Raj Khanat alleged that his client had told that there was a special doping fund with the Festina team. This fund was used to procure doping products and had about €60. A former TVM rider, Alain van den Bosch, admitted to taking EPO while riding on the team back in 1994. July 23, 1998, 9 riders and 3 officials from Festina's Tour de France team are taken into police custody. Famously, Christophe Bassins was not taken into custody and he was the only member of the team not implicated in the doping. In Famiers, Tvm, the manager of the TVM team, and Andrei Mikhailov, the TVM team doctor, are taken into custody and detained overnight. 4 other TVM officials including director sportif Hendrik Redent are also interrogated but are later released. Priam and Mikhailov were arrested after the French police raided the Hotel de la Rocade in Palmiers, the hotel that the team was staying in. Police found drug evidence in a suitcase and a rubbish bin in TVM unregistered trademark S hotel room in Toulouse and Metz. Eric van de Sijpe, a Belgian judge, ordered a search of the offices of the Festina doctor whereby the police obtained computer files proving the riders were using EPO. Festina riders are questioned in Lyon and held in police custody. Police announced that they will also question the Rabobank and casino teams. All 9 Festina riders who had participated in the 1998 Tour de France were escorted to a hospital and obligated to undergo extensive tests and sample giving such as blood, hair and urine samples. The television crew of France 2 found needles with the remains of banned substances in the hotel room of the Essex team. The syringes allegedly had the initials of the riders of the team. July 24, 1998, Priam and Mikhailov are transferred to Foix. The 9 riders from Festina are let free. 5 of them have admitted to doping. Virenque claims that he is clean. Hervé Copyright also maintains he is innocent. An investigation into TVM begins. Stage 12 is interrupted for 2 hours by riders. Interim Festina manager Marino is also released on bail while former manager Roussel, Voet and Dr. Raj Khanat are held. The revelations of Maya provoked the riders' strike in the stage. A second investigation is launched in the drugs find of the TVM team during the tour. Voet and Roussel explain how doping was organized on the team and that the other teams are involved in smuggling. Alex Zarwan-Courtelet also admits to doping but claims that he needed to do so to satisfy his sponsors. Zarwan-Courtelet claims that he was deprived of his spectacles during the police interview. Dufo admitted to doping in police custody because the evidence proving that he was doping was overpowering, he claimed. July 27, 1998. The police say that the Festina affair and the TVM affair are not connected. Priam and Mikhailov are still held in custody. The president of the International Olympic Committee, Juan Antonio Samaranch, called for performance-enhancing drugs to be legalized. His call was supported by 2 cycling teams, Banesto and Team Once. Priam and Alexandre Mikhailov are taken by car from Foix to Reims and are still detained. Neil Stevens, a Festina rider at the Tour, admits taking performance-enhancing drugs but claims that he thought the EPO injections were vitamin C and E supplements. July 28, 1998, 2 former riders of Festina, Gilles Bouvid and Emmanuel Megnian, confessed to doping. Roussel is released on bail. TVM are met by the police in Albertville. 6 TVM riders including sprinter Jeroen Blillevens, Bart Voskamp, Sylvain Navin and Steven de Jong are taken in the night to the hospital where they give blood, hair and urine samples. TVM's Soigner Jan Moors is arrested. Police also take 3 cases, a sports bag and a dustbin from the team. Afterwards the rest of the team are taken into custody and escorted to the hospital for extensive drug tests. July 29, 1998, the Tour Peloton conducted an industrial dispute by cycling very slowly. The champion of France, Laurent Jalabert pulled out first followed by the rest of his team, Team Once. The Spanish team Banesto and the Italian team Risco Scotti left at the feeding zone. The peloton stopped a second time and threatened a mass withdrawal against the treatment of the tour riders as criminals. At a slow tempo, the peloton walked to Aix-les-Bains and the stage was cancelled. In the afternoon there was a raid on Team Once, Team Polti, La Frena Sectionnaires des Jeux, Lotto and Casino. Team managers Marc Madiot, Vincent Lavenu and the rider Rodolfo Massi are arrested. It was also announced that Coca-Cola, a major sponsor of the Tour de France, decided to withdraw from sponsoring the race. July 30, 1998, Keem and Vitalicio Segueros pull out of the Tour before the 18th stage. TVM rider Jeroen Bleulevens pulls out near the border with Switzerland. Rodolfo Massi, leader of the mountains classification, was not able to start the stage as he was still being held in police custody. The truck of the Casino team was seized by police. The media reports that the drugs found in Vita Euro unregistered trademark S car were destined to be shared by 3 other teams: a Euro Big Mat, La Frena Sectionnaires des Jeux and Casino. These teams were allegedly mentioned by Festina riders during their confessions. July 31, 1998, Bleulevens arrived back in the Netherlands and was joined by the rest of the TVM team who did not start the 19th stage. Massi and Torredos are taken from chamber copywriter Y de Lille where investigating Judge Patrick Kiel would interrogate them. Massi was suspected to be involved in the Festina drugs network and in smuggling of drugs from Italy to France. Massi was allegedly known in the peloton as the Little Chemist. At this stage there are fewer than 100 riders in the race compared to the 189 riders that started the race. August 1, 1998, Massi is charged with inciting and facilitating the use of doping. August 3, 1998, Cespliem, Andrij Mikhailov and Jan Moors are still held in prison. TVM riders have to present themselves in Reims. After several hours of questioning they are released. TVM Master Johannes Moors is jailed for suspicion of possessing drugs and breaches of French customs laws. Police find banned substances in the hotel of Team Once. Team Dr. Torredos alleges that these substances were used by support staff. August 4, 1998, Jean-Marie Leblanc acknowledges that the increasing speed of the peloton in the Tour was due to the increasing use of doping in the peloton. August 5, 1998, the media contains many reports of drug finds along the route of the Tour a Euro by farmers or by police in the hotels used by teams a Euro, for example a hotel in Verep used by GAN, Casino, Saeco and Keem. August 10, 1998, Cantina Tolo and La Frena Sectionnaires des Jeux vehicles are searched by French customs officials. Post-tour investigation, September 13, 1998. 2 pharmacists Christine and Eric Perania are questioned in respect to supplying illegal doping products to Voit. September 18, 1998, Frena Sectionnaires des Jeux Soigner Jeff Dote is taken into police custody and imprisoned for 11 days. September 23, 1998, Voit accuses Virenque of doping in the French newspaper Le Parisien. Voit said to the newspaper that only 3 Festina riders were drug-free. These were Christophe Bassins, Patrice Halgan and Laurent Lefebvre. October 15, 1998, there is a confrontation between Virenque, Voit and Rijkaard where Virenque calls himself an innocent victim. November 28, 1998, the results of the analysis of the samples taken from the 9 Festina riders are known and are subsequently released and revealed evidence of human growth hormone, amphetamines, steroids, corticoids and erythropoietin. In 8 of the 9 riders test positive for synthetic EPO. The results of the 9th rider were indeterminate but Moreau had already admitted use of EPO. Traces of amphetamines were found in the samples of Moreau, Pascal Hervé copyright, Laurent Brochard and Didier Rousse. 4 riders had hematocrit levels below the legal limit of 50%, established in February 1997. These included Virenque, Armin Meyer, Moreau who had a level of 49.3 and Laurent Dufaux who had a level of 47.2%. 5 riders were above the limit. Brochard had 50.3%, Niels Stevens 50.3%, Hervé copyright 52.6%, Rus 51% and Alex Czar 1/4 Le 52.3%. December 15, 1998, Laurent Brochard, Christophe Moreau and Didier Rus are suspended by the French Cycling Federation for 6 months and cannot ride until April 30, 1999. December 17, 1998, team doctor of Team 1's Nicolas Tourdos is charged in relation to the import of banned substances. Investigation in 1999 and aftermath. January 26, 1999, Joel Shabayan, Festina Communications Director, is charged. March 23, 1999, Jean-Marie Dalabot, the Soigneur of Festina, is charged. March 26, 1999, Vering is charged with inciting the use and administration of doping products to others. April 1, 1999, Jean-Marie Leblanc is taken into police custody and questioned. April 4, 1999, French Federation Cycling Vice President Roger Legacy and President Barle are charged with violation of the anti-doping law of 1989. June 1999, in an interview with La Permail Cup, Roussel alleged that when he told Vering of Voet being arrested, Vering replied "Mais produits, comment je vais faire maintenant?" which could be translated as "my product stuff €, what am I going to do now?" June 17, 1999, the organizers of the Tour de France announced the teams of the 1999 Tour de France, where they take the unprecedented step of banning teams, team officials and individual riders. In the aftermath of the Festina affair, Vering was banned together his former teammate Hervé copyright. Manolo says, manager of Once Deutsche Bank, Dr. Nicolas Tourdos, team doctor of Team Once, and the entire TVM farm rights were also banned. This was in relation to the actions and behavior of these teams and riders during the 1998 Tour. Festina Trial, October 23, 2000, started the Festina Trial with 10 people charged, including Richard Vering, former Festina rider and team leader, charged with inciting the administration of doping and masking products to others and complicity in the importation of drugs. Vering faced a 2-year jail sentence and a fine of 100,000 francs. Bruno Roussel, former director sportif and manager of Festina, charged with helping and inciting the use of doping products in competition, importation, smuggling and improper circulation of prohibited substances, as well as complicity in the importation, storage and acquisition of illegal substances. Willy Voet, former Soigneur, charged with helping and inciting the use of doping in competition, unauthorized importation of drugs, complicity in smuggling and infringements of the narcotics law. Dr. Eric Rijkaard, former Festina doctor, same charges as Roussel plus charged with administering doping products. Dr. Nicolas Tourdos, team doctor of Once at time of 1998 Tour de France and Festina trial, charged with unauthorized importation of drugs. The raid did not identify he possessed any EPO, but that he was in possession of excessive quantities of the 4 medicines, codeine, kelstone, prednisone, and lagradin. Christine Perania, pharmacist, charged with helping with the use of doping and infringements in public health law. A Permeric Perania, pharmacist, same charges as Christine Perania. Jeff Domt, Soigneur of La Sectionnaires des Team, charged with inciting the use of doping products and infringements of public health law. Jean Dalabot, former Soigneur, same charges as Jeff Domt as well as infringements to customs law. Joel Shabayan, former Festina communications officer, same charges as Jean Dalabot. Witnesses included, Luc Leblanc, Christophe Bassens, Thomas Davy, Laurent Brochard, Hein Verbruggen, Jean-Marie Leblanc, October 23, 2000, Yvonne Meng. The Copyrighter's Book, Secret Défense, Marvar Copyright Rita Copyright sur le dopage describes how he used EPO while riding for Frena Sectionnaires des Jeux in 1997, and stated that the Soigneur of the Frena Sectionnaires des Jeux team, Jeff Domt, was the one providing him with EPO and treating him with a glucose infusion 1 hour ahead of a UCI hematocrit test in the 1997 edition of Paris-Nice, in a vain attempt to lower his hematocrit value below the 50% limit. He also stated that his team manager Mark Madiotte had been fully aware of his EPO use in 1997. October 23, 2000, on the first day of the trial, Voet stated that he never let the hematocrit level of the riders exceed 54%, whereas other teams were letting it go as high as 64%. This was under the order of team Dr. Eric Rijkaard. October 24, 2000, Vierink admitted to doping. October 25, 2000, Pascal Hervé copyright, Vierink's friend and the only other Festina rider to deny doping, admitted to doping. October 27, 2000, former rider Thomas Davy testified at the trial that the teams Castorama, Banesto, Team Telecom and La Section Deja had been running organized systematic doping programs, similar to the one revealed at the Festina team. He knew that from riding at Castorama, Banesto and Section Deja. His use of EPO started in 1995, and continued until the end of his career, after the 1997 season. When asked if Miguel Indurain at Banesto had also used EPO, he said, "I don't know. I didn't go into every room, but I think he did." He stated that Jeff Dent is the person supplying him with EPO while he was riding for Section Deja in 1997. November 1, 2000, on the stand UCI President Hein Verbruggen admitted that organized doping may exist. The following day several doctors of Spanish cycling teams refuted this statement. Jesus Hoyos, Kepa Slayer and Eufemiano Fuentes spoke to the Spanish daily paper as to refute this statement. Fuentes would later emerge as the key figure in the Operación Cube den Puerto doping scandal. December 22, 2000, Vierink was cleared from the criminal charge of inciting the administration of doping and masking products to others and complicity in the importation of drugs. Voet was given a 10-month suspended sentence and a 30,000 franc fine. Bruno Roussel was given a suspended sentence of 1 year and a fine of 50,000 francs. Christine Perania received a 30,000 francs fine. Her husband Apermilric received a fine of 10,000 francs. Jeff Dent received a 9-month suspended sentence and a fine of 20,000 francs. Jean Dalabot and Joel Chabine received a 5-month suspended sentence. Dr. Torridos was given a 30,000 francs fine. The case against Eric Rijkaard was dropped due to his deteriorating health. He died of cancer a month later. December 30, 2000, Swiss Cycling Federation gave a 9-month ban to Vierink and a 4,000 Swiss franc fine. Books. Many books have been written about the Festina affair. Willy Voet, Massacre à la Cour registered trademark Ni, Kalman la copyright v. 1999 ISBN 2-290-30062-4 translated as Breaking the Chain, ISBN 0-224-06056-2, Bruno Roussel, Tour Devices, Hochet Litter Copyright Ratcher, 2001 ISBN 2-1-235585-4, Richard Vierink, Marvar Copyright Rita Copyright, Editions du Rocher, 1999 ISBN 978-2-. 268-03305-1, Jean Frona Section Warque Copyright Net, Uncyclonoma Copyright Dopage, Les Secrets du Dossier Festina, Broca Copyright 1999 ISBN 978-2-263-02865-6, Daniel Baal, Droit dans la Mur, Editions Gla Copyright Nat, 1999 ISBN 978-2-7234-3090-6, Sylvie Voet, De la Poudre, Editions Michel Laffin, 2004 ISBN 2-7499-0132-4, Eric Rijkaard, De Zork Festina, Het Recht van Onthoud van Dr. Eric Rijkaard, La Nieuwe Eurotyrian, 2000 ISBN 90-209-3989-0. Tvm affair. In the French judicial system, the Tvm affair treated as an independent court case, though it is often referred to as part of the Festina affair since French police executed the Tvm raid, interrogated 6 Tvm riders, held several Tvm key staff in custody, and performed additional advanced doping tests during the Festina investigation. After the public prosecutor in Reims had prepared the case, the court arbitration was conducted during May 31, 2001, with Petegem, Andrei Mikhailov and Jan Moors being charged for import, transport and possession of doping drugs on French soil. Main events: March 9, 1998, 104 EPO vials are seized by the French police from a Tvm car near the Spanish border, on its way back home from the Vuelta a Murcia race in Spain. July 18, 1998, the French newspaper Aujourd'hui, which is owned by the Amaury Group, published the story about the Tvm affair. Petegem admits the fact that some EPO vials indeed had been seized from a Tvm car, but insists that the event in no way was related to his cycling team. July 23, 1998, on the rest day of the Tour, the French police raided the Hôtel de la Rocade in Famiers, where the Tvm team was staying. Petegem and Andrei Mikhailov are arrested. 4 other Tvm members, including assistant team manager Hendrik Redant and the Tvm mechanic who was driving the car with EPO vials in March 1998, are interrogated for several hours, but released again after the questioning. July 24, 1998, the prosecutor in Reims reports that masking agents and doping were found at some of Tvm's team trucks and rented rooms at their hotel in Famiers. Several months later, it was revealed that in addition to the seized substances, the police had also found traces of EPO and some used syringes in the trash cans located in the Tvm rented hotel rooms. The riders in the peloton arranged a 1-hour-long sit-down strike in the middle of Stage 12, to protest that the police having held Tvm staff in custody overnight. July 27, 1998, Petegem and Mikhailov are indicted for breaking the law on toxic substances, inciting use of doping substances, and violating the French customs legislation. July 28, 1998, French police raided the Tvm hotel in Albertville, and arrested the Tvm's soigneur Jan Moors. The 6 remaining riders are all escorted to the nearest hospital, where they are forced to submit some extra urine, blood and hair sampling. The police want to conduct some new advanced doping testing on the rider samples, as circumstantial evidence in a court case against the team for running an organized systematic doping program. July 29, 1998, the riders in the peloton protest again by not racing the stage, just rolling through and letting 4 Tvm riders cross the finish line, some meters ahead of the peloton. ASO consequently decided to cancel the stage. July 30, 1998, the first Tvm rider, Jeroen Blillevens, decided to abandon the Tour prematurely when the route crosses the Swiss border. At the same day, Moors was also transferred by the police from Albertville to the prison in Reims. July 31, 1998, the 5 remaining Tvm riders decide to abandon the Tour. August 3, 1998, the 6 Tvm riders who were tested on July 28, are being called in for a second interrogation along with 8 additional Tvm staffs. As French law does not prosecute riders for doping use, and as none of those interrogated in the second round could be charged for doping trafficking, selling, administration or incentives facilitation, they were all released again. August 10, 1998, on basis of interrogations and the seizure of masking and doping products at the raids on July 23 plus 28, the police decides to prolong the jailing of Mikhailov and the detaining of Petegem and Moors. Petegem and Moors are however transferred from prison to a more relaxing house arrest at a hotel in Reims. August 20, 1998, as part of the investigation, the police in Reims decides to interrogate a further 7 Tvm riders, and by same occasion collect samples of their hair, urine and blood, in order to also test those riders for potential doping use. November 10, 1998, the newspaper Aujourd'hui report that the advanced extra-doping tests conducted on samples of the interrogated Tvm riders, now have returned several positives for EPO, anabolic steroids, growth hormones, corticosteroids, amphetamines and cannabis. November 25, 1998, Petegem is interrogated. November 26, 1998, Moors and Mikhailov are interrogated. November 27, 1998, the investigation chief calls 8 of the previously tested TVM riders in for a second interrogation in Reims, as he wants to confront them with a positive test result from their submitted samples. In regards of Peter van Petegem, it was noted some of the new scientific doping tests used by the police had found traces of EPO and anabolic steroids in his hair and blood samples from August 20, 1998. Van Petegem, who would risk losing his World Championship silver medal if found guilty of having doped, confidently announced he would refute all test results, arguing that he could not be convicted guilty by some newly developed scientific doping tests, not yet certified by IOC-UCI. December 3, 1998, the 8 TVM riders mentioned above, are interrogated and free to leave again after 6 hours. December 4, 1998, Priam and Moors are released from their long house arrest and now allowed to travel home to the Netherlands, and the team Dr. Mikhailov is also released after paying a bailout fee to the court. May 10, 1999, the French lawyer, Lovelot, who defended the imprisoned TVM staff in 1998, is now himself suspected and being accused for being involved in doping trafficking. The TVM team release a press statement, that they immediately have stopped all collaboration with the lawyer. June 16, 1999, Jean-Marie Leblanc, chief of the tour organization, decides not to invite TVM and Richard Virenque as participants in the next edition of the tour, because he still considered them as being tainted from unsolved doping allegations in the TVM affair and Festina affair. He also decides not to invite these 2 other riders with unsolved cases, Laurent Roux and Philippe Gourmand, along with the once team's manager Manolo Cés and Dr. Nicolas Estrados. Virenque's team Polti then appealed to UCI against this decision, and UCI then decided to force the tour organization to accept that Virenque and Cés can start in the upcoming edition of the tour. The decision to boycott the TVM team along with Roux and Gourmand was however accepted. December 7, 1999, ASO decides after having received guarantees that the TVM team will employ a new manager, that the team will be invited for the 2000 Tour de France. January 7, 2000, Cés Priam is replaced by Jacques-Henri Groff as team manager. The team lost TVM as sponsor, but continue with a new sponsor name Farm Frites. TVM Trial, May 28, 2001, the prosecutor first presented the test results for the seized products. The content of 3 seized medical suitcases had included 12 full vials with ACTH corticosteroids, caffeine tablets and Ventolin. An empty vial syringes found in the dust bins at 2 hotel rooms rented by TVM contained traces of recombinant EPO and a homemade cocktail. Dr. Françoise Bressel and Dr. Parr copyright pin, then presented the analysis results for the 12 tested TVM riders. Dr. Bressel stated it is very likely that 4 TVM riders used EPO in the 1998 tour, as their blood samples from July 28, 1998 showed a relatively high hematocrit value and a remarkably low natural production of red blood cells, while the iron content in the blood at the same time indicated such high hematocrit values could only stem from injection of medical EPO. Bressel further clarified scientific studies has proved that a low natural production of red blood cells along with high hematocrit and iron values, always was visible in blood samples starting from 5–6 days after having injected medical EPO, and thus the riders displaying this test pattern in their blood were very likely to have injected medical EPO. In regards of the earlier referred to EPO indication for Peter van Petegem, this was something Bressel on the other hand argued should be classified as doubtful values, rather than positive indication. Urine samples had been corticosteroids positive for Jeroen Blillevens and Bart Voskamp, while the NRC newspaper reported Jeroen Blillevens, Sergei Outshokov and Laurent Roux to have been positive for this substance. Finally, all sources reported that Dr. Parr copyright pin with certainty also had detected amphetamine traces in the samples of 2 TVM riders, who were both tested out of competition on August 20, 1998. And in the urine sample of Laurent Roux he also detected the recreational drug cannabis. The last piece of incriminating evidence was a seized book accounting, proving that all TVM riders annually paid the team doctor 7.5% of their total prize money as a fee for common purchase of medicines, which the testimonies of Roux, Hoffman and Van Petegem later on had also confirmed. May 28, 2001, the defendant's lawyer answered that the 12 corticosteroid vials had been solely intended for Blaylovans, Voskamp and Outshokov, who at that point of time had carried a temporary use exemption for this treatment, due to racing with some unhealed injuries. He also noted Laurent Roux had used it early in the Tour, due to riding with an injury. No explanation was given for the traces of medical EPO and homemade cocktail in the garbage. In regards of the two riders found positive for amphetamines, he believed the amounts were so small, that they likely stemmed from a use of painkillers during some of the days where the two riders were not racing. If the traces indeed could be proved to origin from an intake of pure amphetamines, he pointed out the doping list anyway still had not prohibited such use of recreational drugs, as long as it only happened out of competition, which he in any case claimed it did. A third possible legal route for Tristan Hoffmann's positive amphetamine test, was also suggested to have been stemming from a groin surgery he underwent ahead of the 1998 season. In regards of the four riders showing indication of EPO use, his only counter-argument was, that Dr. Brezel only spoke of probabilities, and could not prove that EPO use is a certain fact. Finally he claimed the medicine fee paid by all riders on the team, was solely used for buying vitamins and minerals. May 29, 2001, the prosecutor upheld his indictment of Andrei Mikhailov, Tvm and Jan Moors, all being charged for importation, possession and transportation of poisonous materials, incentives and facilitation of doping products, as well as breach of customs legislation on the holding and movement of hazardous materials, with Mikhailov in addition being charged for administration of doping and illegal practice of medicine. Andrei Mikhailov maintained his previous claim, that the 104 EPO vials being seized from the TVM car near the Spanish border in March 1998, was something he had bought himself as a charity gift to a children's hospital in Russia for the purpose of treating children with leukemia, and then attempted to prove his claim by submitting an undated fax sent to a Russian doctor. Moreover, he claimed the reason he had removed the EPO name stickers from all vials, was not because he intended to mislead anybody, but simply because he did not want any riders to worry about the content of his package. When the prosecutor asked him why he had also opted to remove the small medical description pages, which by law is required always to follow dangerous medicines with possible negative counter-effects on health, he provided no explanation for that. July 17, 2001, despite pleading not guilty, the three TVM staffs were convicted guilty of providing performance-enhancing drugs in an organized way to a majority of its 9 Tour riders, ahead and during the 1998 Tour de France. The court handed out the following punishment: Tvm, who had organized the doping, was given an 18-month suspended sentence and fined 80,000 francs. Andrei Mikhailov, who was found to have supervised the doping, got a 12-month suspended sentence and fined 60,000 francs. Jan Moors, who was found to have assisted the doping practice, received a 6-month suspended sentence and a fine of 40,000 francs. The 3 convicted persons above, were also fined a total of 50,000 francs for being guilty of violating the customs law on import of hazardous substances. References. External links: L'affaire Festina, coverage of Festina affair, gallery of 10 images about the Festina affair.